Geometry Unit 9, Section 7, Finding Angle Measures. So we've been finding all side lengths using sine and cosine the past couple of days by setting up function angle equals ratio. We've been determining the proper function, sine, cosine, or tangent, and that with our angle equals from that angle's perspective, equals a ratio of opposite over hypotenuse for sine, adjacent over hypotenuse for cosine, opposite over adjacent for tangent. And then we were cross multiplying that proportion created here to find a missing part of the ratio, to find a missing side length. Well, now we're going to see that we can use sine, cosine, and tangent and these equations to help us determine angle measures. So what if we have the sides, but we want the angle? So here I have a hypotenuse of 7, a side of a leg of 3, and I want to know what is the measure of angle x. So first thing is we are still going to set up function angle equals ratio, depending on the angle we want. So this is going to be our unknown here. So this will be our angle x or our angle theta. Let's go with theta. It's even better. Although this is using labeled x. So let's go with x. So this is going to be our x as opposed to x was part of the ratio when we were finding sides. So that's one way you definitely know it's different. So instead of having function angle equals ratio, we could do what's called inverse trigonometry. And inverse trigonometry is what you see on your calculator. We see our sine, cosine, and tangent button. But the second right above them, you see sine with a little -1, cosine with a little -1, tangent with a little -1. Those are not exponents, although it's in the exponent location. That's why it's a little confusing. That stands for inverse sine, inverse cosine, inverse tangent. And that's what's going to help us find angles. So inverse trig, little -1 exponent, this finds angles. So sine theta equals opposite over hypotenuse. When x was like this over here, we'd cross multiply and solve for x. We had the angle. Well, now if we're finding the angle, that means we have our opposite and hypotenuse. So this can be rewritten to be inverse sine opposite over hypotenuse equals theta. So you can solve for theta by doing inverse sine opposite over hypotenuse. Or you can do inverse cosine adjacent over hypotenuse to solve for theta. Or you could do inverse tangent opposite over adjacent to solve for theta. And basically, to get all these inverse functions, we have to type the second key in our calculator. Second sine gives me inverse sine, or second cosine gives me inverse cosine. And so what you need to remember when it comes to trigonometry is that the second key is used for finding angles. Okay, we do regular sine, cosine, and tangent when we're finding a side length, and we do second sine, second cosine, second tangent, inverse trigonometry when we're finding angles. So that's what we see here, is we're finding measure of angle x. We still need to determine what function we're working with. From this unknown angles perspective, 3 is opposite, 7 is the hypotenuse. That is going to be the sine function. So a regular trig equation would be function is sine, angle, unknown x, equals ratio, opposite over hypotenuse, 3 over 7. But cross multiplying won't get us anywhere because x is not part of the ratio. So once we have the basic trig function, we then need to rewrite it as an inverse trig function. Inverse sine 3 over 7, and that's going to equal x. And so we can type it to our calculator. Again, check your mode. Make sure you're on the right mode. We're on degree mode, so we're good. I don't know why this is so wide. Let me move this over. We can type in, that'll do it, inverse sine, which comes from second sine 3 divided by 7. And that's going to give us the angle. And does it say what to round to? To the nearest tenth. So the nearest tenth is 25.4. Let me see if I move that over. That'll get back to big again. All right, so 25.4 degrees. Okay, so let's just do another example, but that's basically it. It doesn't really matter which function you're doing. You just have to determine the function based on the sides and do second function or inverse function typed in by your ratio. So from angle x's perspective, this is opposite and this is adjacent, so this must be the tangent function. Tangent x equals opposite over adjacent, so 12 over 9.5. So then this can be changed to be the inverse of tangent. So inverse tangent, 12 over 9.5. Still opposite over adjacent, but this time we're doing second tangent. And so that's all we're going to type into our calculator is second tangent 12 divided by 9.5. So I actually believe that finding angles with trig, oops, hit the wrong button there, is a little bit easier than finding sides with trig because you don't need to, do any cross multiplying or anything like that. You just got to hit the second key, type in your ratio that comes from your function, and you got it there. So 51.6 degrees is it. And that's it. So shorter video today. We'll discuss this and work on this more tomorrow. Of course, word problems will come up here where, you see a bird in the tree and you're this far and this tall. What angle are you looking up at the bird? Stuff like that. But that's our trig stuff. And so we see a lot of modeling questions with here, but you really still need to know which function it is based on the sides. You still have to have a really good knowledge of sine, cosine, and tangent. But this time we're kind of doing an inverse of it, which is our second key in our calculator. And then, of course, don't make mistakes on your rounding. See you later.